Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is Home Accessibility, Part 2. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is Home Accessibility Part 2. And why? Because we had so many questions about home accessibility, we had to bring them back, none other than Brad Wert. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Marsha.
Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for inviting me back. It's a pleasure.
You know, Brad, a lot of people have questions, and they hate when the program ends too soon to get their question answered. So we want to give a recap, first of all.
Okay.
You know, so once again, we know you're from Cor Freedom, and we need to know what those magnificent titles you have again, and something else about
Certified Aging in Place Specialist. That's the CAPS.
Okay.
The CACS, Certified Environmental Access Consultant, and then Residential Ramp Consultant.
Okay.
So those are my specialties.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry. How long have you been with Cor Freedom?
I've been with Cor Freedom a couple of years.
Okay.
I've done this trade for almost 20.
All right.
So that's kind of where I cut my teeth. I grew up in kind of a construction family. I'm a veteran. And when I got out, I wanted to help give back to people.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So actually, by you being a veteran and wanting to give back to people, this is your, we wouldn't say dream job, but it fits you just right?
It lets me sleep at night.
Good.
No matter how hard the day is, I know I made someone's life better.
That's good.
I mean, as a carpenter, you know, sometimes we go for the pow, we go for the look, but when someone says you made my life easier, I think that's a little bit more powerful.
Mm-hmm. It is,
So.
it is. And here at Just Dance Talk Show, what we try to do is educate the viewers to know what is out there, you know, in the state of Michigan and beyond. And that's to help the person, you know, who's at home saying, I wish. Some things I always tell people, you don't have to wish for that. You know,
Right.
just tune in or call and ask a question. And if we don't have the answer, we'll look for it and get you connected with the right person.
Absolutely.
So, you know, by rights, when we had you here the first time and we talked about home accessibilities, people had questions about it, extended questions about their homes.
Okay.
And more or less, some people want to stay in the home and they don't want to move.
That's kind of the goal of it, keeping you where you're at, where you're comfortable with, where you've raised your children, your church members, your friends, your neighbors. You know, nobody really wants to move. They're comfortable where they're at. They just have obstacles in their way that we can help them get around.
And that is true. And then all the time, it's not necessarily an elderly person.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Some people get hurt on the job. Some people get hurt in a car accident. Some people have a significant life-changing event to where they can't do what they used to do. And that's where we're here to help.
And I want to ask you, do you guys do any things with motor vehicles, with cars or anything like that?
We do the light stuff. We do like the scooter adaptations, like a hitch mount lift or something to go into the back of a minivan to take a scooter down the road.
Okay.
That's where our core competencies are.
Yeah, you know, when I actually see an individual going down the street in a scooter, I always think freedom. Okay.
It's huge.
I do.
Well, you got to think about it. Our biggest complaint about being in the hospital is we're stuck. So now you're in the home and you're stuck. And a while ago, I did a wheelchair ramp for a lady who was in dire straits, and we did it. It was a big publicity thing. And I remember taking her outside to show her how the ramp was going to lay out. We could have painted that ramp pink, purple, blue, whatever. She was happy to be outside.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was enjoying the wind, the trees, that's what it's all about, getting back out again. You know, and that's the beauty of some of these mobility devices. Some of these scooters, you can go 10, 12 miles round trip. So you're out and about.
Right. I mean, you know, to know that you can go to the grocery store for yourself, or go to the bank for yourself, you know, or even if there's a transportation company that can take, you know, your scooter halfway somewhere and, you know, you can take yourself the rest of the way or whatever. All that is a plus. But sometimes the family members are saying, you shouldn't do that. but you're not taking me.
But see, that's the gut check because we're all adults. We want to do for ourselves. So when you get to that stage where you're reliant, getting that back is huge.
It is.
It's huge.
It is, and I think that, and I heard you say you were a serviceman. Even for our servicemen, a lot of the things that we should be doing and giving back and everything, we're limited on, and our servicemen are not getting 100% of the kickback that they should, rightfully get. And I mean housing, mobility, things of nature that should be given to them because you served your country.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I commend you for all that you've done and still do. Thank you so much. And I would hope that for our disabled veterans, more or less, more housing is made accessible to the veterans, as well as the accommodations in the housing, whether it's a adult care living center or if it's an individual home or something. But for veterans, you should have all those things allotted to you, so that you don't have to go to the VA and stay there for months at a time. And then when you come home, where are you going home to?
This is true.
And then when we actually have a place that's available for a veteran, modify it. Okay? Just outright modify it.
Absolutely.
Do you think we need to go to Congress or something?
I'll drive.
Okay.
Road trip.
Well,
Road trip.
Right, we're telling the truth here now. We're telling the truth here now because people are starting to live longer. And all servicemen are not of elderly nature. We're talking about the baby boomers and, this generation here. So we're talking about 20-year-olds who have served, and they come back, with scrap metal wounds and things of that nature, missing limbs. And then they go back home. Maybe they don't want to go back home.
Sure.
Okay, so we need to find some type of program or develop some type of service to allow our servicemen and women to feel comfortable when they come back home. If they need modifications, it should be inputted into their insurance plan without hesitation. Absolutely. And, drawback.
There's got to be a better way.
It is. So on that note, I'm going to take a break because somebody heard me. Okay, and we'll be right back with some more good information about home accessibility. So we'll be right back.
Movement. Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Until all our daughters are safe. Until all our children have families. Until all our families have homes. Until all our parents are cared for. We'll be here.
And welcome back to the second half of the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, I always tell you, if you have questions for any of our guests, such as Brad Wert of Cor Freedom or any of the guests that you've seen on the Just Ask Talk Show, give us a call at 1-800-323-5336, 1-800-323-5336. Email me, Marcia, at Just Ask Talk Show, or, Twitter. Just Ask Talk Show, hashtag Just Ask Talk Show, all of it at the bottom of the screen. So I do want you to know that you can look for some information about Cor Freedom on our website in the near future. So if you have questions for them or you want to see some of these photos and things that they've done, you'd be surprised what we have on our website for you. Now, Brad, I wanted to tell people that because a lot of times they say, well, I saw the show, but I don't know if I can get to these people, okay? So we want them to know that they do have access to you guys if they have questions and concerns.
By all means.
Okay.
By
now,
all means.
I have a question off the top of my head. What is the oldest home that you guys have did some repairs or modifications?
Personally, I've had my hands wrapped around a home that was 1914.
1914?
1914. That was when it was constructed.
Whoa. Okay.
And it was a farmhouse. It posed some challenges. Obviously, the construction methods have changed between here and 1914. There were a lot of changes, but it's construction.
Wow.
You can do anything with construction. It's just time, money, and the dreams you want.
Wow.
So it posed challenges. It was sentimental to the family. The family wanted the home altered, but they still wanted the integrity of having that down home feeling, and we were able to achieve that. But it did
great.
require some upgrades. I mean, they used different plumbing back then. The electrical was different back then.
Okay.
So obviously we had to do some upgrades with the property in order to make it accessible. But we
Okay.
achieved our goals, and I believe everyone was very happy with the outcome. It was very functional for them.
Well, for a home of that age, and even to make the current upgrades to to fit what we do now,
Sure.
they must really love that home.
They did.
Okay,
They
so
did.
they probably didn't have a problem with the
I
modification.
think their great-grandfather constructed it.
Okay.
So, it was one of those hand-built.
Wow.
They probably migrated from another state looking for work, and it was a field. They bought the property and started sawing down some trees and have at it. Or went to the local lumber yard.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So 19. Okay.
Yeah.
But what are some of these possible solutions that people can do for themselves?
For themselves, what I commonly see when I walk into a house, it's like, it's on clutter. We all have clutter. I have clutter in my house. We all have clutter. But when we start having mobility issues, right down to throw rugs, we like the thick shag rugs because they're nice and comfortable if you want to sit on the floor and watch TV. We're not going to sit on the floor and watch TV if we have mobility issues. Let's get those rugs out of the way so they're not a stumbling hazard. Some clients that have Parkinson's, they shuffle their feet. That shuffling, you start going from a solid surface to the shag rug, that could cause them to stumble and fall. And as we get older, when we fall, we all know we don't bounce back like we did when we were that little kid on the bike.
That's right.
So you got to kind of watch your spills and falls because it could be that permanent setback that puts you into a permanent mobility device.
Yeah, I think sometimes stairs are an issue, but the people who have stairs, all the rooms are upstairs, you're looking upstairs like everybody goes upstairs to sleep,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you got a family member that no longer can go upstairs.
Sure.
So if they don't have a family member that is able to go upstairs, the home doesn't necessarily have to be modified, but what are some of the solutions that a person can make for themselves because they can't afford anything right now?
If they can't afford anything, keep the clutter off the stairs. Some people have pots, planters, shoes. I had been in this trade for about 6 or 7 years, and we had a golden retriever who left his rolling toy on the stairwell, and I was walking my son down to bed. I had him, and next thing I know, I was staring at the feet tips.
Whoa.
And all I could do was hold my son out, and I took everything on my back. I literally fell back on the steps, and I got downstairs. I was like, this is how it happens. And something didn't feel right. I was fine, but I really thought I fractured my back then. So
bad.
keeping everything clear, trip hazards, clutters is paramount, especially when you have mobility issues, because that could have been the injury that took me out right there.
So what happened to the dog? I'm sorry, I just...
No, the dog's fine. That was my
That's
wife's
your
little
toy.
shadow.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
no.
wanted to know what happened to the dog.
It just totally distracted. If I'd have seen it, I probably would have had at my dog, but because I fell, it was just, okay, wait. Okay, we're moving. We're good. Never mind. Good puppy.
Yeah.
Stay away from my plate.
Well,
So he's good.
sometimes people have fallen over their pets. I mean, we've had some incidents where a woman, stepped on
Yes.
her cat and broke her leg,
Yep.
things like that. Or a gentleman, the dog's tail was out there and he stepped on the
Absolutely.
tail and, tried to step up off of it and flip backwards.
That's a great
So,
consideration
yeah.
because a lot of these pets, how many times do we see a cat going in between someone's legs? If you're trying to take a step, that's an issue. We got to be mindful of how we move now because
True.
things have changed. So when we start being mindful of how we move, we start looking for the small hazards, the pets, the toys, pets leaving stuffed animals everywhere.
What about the visually impaired? Is there any devices or modifications coming up for...
There's a lot of environmental devices for people that are visually impaired.
Okay.
The use of lights, filters of lights, sounds, everything. Now that we're in the smartphone technology, the game's changed. There's a lot of environmental controls. We've been dabbling with a system that filters a specific light for people that have dementia, Parkinson's, because their sleep is so detrimental to them.
Yes.
So if we can filter the lights, figure out what rooms the activities are in, we can control that and dial it down so their body naturally reduces or produces the melatonin to allow them that beneficial rest, because in those disease states, rest is everything for
It
them.
is.
Rest
It
is
is.
almost a medication in its own. So there's a lot more available with technology.
That's great. That's great. Anything for the profoundly deaf and hearing impaired, such as myself?
I'm right there with you.
Okay.
There's a lot out there, audio, visual. A lot. We call them environmental controls.
You know what? For me, I always look at the safety features. You know, because being hearing impaired, before I go to bed at night, you know, I got to check the stove, check the windows,
Sure.
check the door.
Sure.
But I believe in having alarms. But I also like to have sound devices. So I have a little box on the door. If you touch that doorknob, you know,
Sure.
it sirens off in the house and everything. It's like, that's somebody trying to get in.
Sure.
Well, that's just one, okay? And then there's the lights. If I'm out of town somewhere, and if I'm a hard sleeper, you know, I might have the special needs room, you know, in a hotel or whatever with the accommodations in it with the strobe light or something. I'm not crazy about that shaking bed though.
No.
But there's things that I believe in utilizing as a person with a disability. You know,
Absolutely.
I don't run from them. I actually look for them.
Sure, and nowadays we can control a home from a smartphone. You know, if it's not the security systems, it's the HVAC. If it's not the HVAC, do we leave a light on? A lot of these light controls that I was talking about, we can figure out if a door was left open. When we get into elder care, it brings the whole family into that network because now we can see, wait a second, has someone been in the bathroom for quite some time? Because that could be an issue.
Correct.
You know, as the stove's been on and she's not baking the cookies she usually bakes, why has it been on for 3 hours? You know, those things can be monitored and safeties be put in place to where we can make that call, hey, Graham, you know, your stove's been on for a little bit.
Right.
And it's not that we're babysitting them, but, you know, sometimes a gas stove being on for a while is a kind of an issue, especially when the flames go out.
And
So,
if the person has early signs of dementia, okay, or just the aging process, period, is in question if you're going to have the smartphones and the iTunes and all that stuff.
Correct.
To utilize them to help protect your loved ones, whether it's an elderly person or a child.
correct. It brings everybody into the care loop.
It sure does.
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break and talk about more care.
Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more care.
3 out of 4 kids are not as secure as they should be because their car seats are not used correctly. But the latch system makes it easier to get it right and to hold your kids tight. Anchor, tether, latch. Learn more at safercar.gov.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to energy-saving bulbs. Saving energy saves you money.
Mark! Anna! Ooh! Hey, forgot your lunch. Hey.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
Appreciation. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
And welcome back to the last half of the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know I always enjoy seeing and meeting someone to share with you. So as usual, I always tell you when you have questions, you know to call me. I'm not going to even go there. It's at the bottom of the screen, okay? But a person like who you see today, Brad Wert, has a lot of wealth of information. And we're trying to get you to understand that you can contact a person like himself or another individual in the same field of work and find out what you need in your home. So don't be afraid to ask that question and involve your whole entire family. You know that you're aging, you want to stay in the home parents, you don't want your kids to just take over, so to speak. So then you have the opportunity to talk to your children and say, you know what, we need to make some changes in the home. And children likewise, you're young adults or you're older adults and you have older parents. You want to be able to go to your parents and say, I know you want to stay here. We need to see about making some modifications in the home so that you can stay here. And that's important, ladies and gentlemen. So don't think that, you know, every time someone gets a certain age, you got to remove them from the home, throw them in a nursing home, assisted living, this and that. They actually can stay at home if you allow them to have some home accessibilities. Okay, so now, Brett, that's important to me because my mother and father, you know, they stayed at home as long as they could until they passed. But, you know, I think that the mind of a parent is still active, like, hey, I'm good. You know, the body might be breaking down and kids saying, I can't keep coming over there moving that wheelchair.
Sure,
So
sure.
you're making excuses for the parent not to be in that home, and you shouldn't. You
Right.
know? I mean, the parents may not clean the house like they used to. If you feel that way, then either you clean the house or you pay somebody
It's
to come.
still mom and dad.
That's still mom and dad.
I mean,
And-
my grandparents were 97 and 94 when they left their home.
See?
They didn't go anywhere, but
Okay.
that was their home.
It is, it is. So how can one, well, you know, what age group, or is there a certain group that can reach out to you guys?
There's a lot of studies on what age group and this, it's everybody. It's everybody. Because we find in some family tragedies, you know, you have a 19-year-old living with an 80-year-old. You have a 20-year-old living with a 30-year-old. Or the 30-year-olds there's no age demographic. Anyone can call us. We can talk about what's going on in the home and how we can improve the home and see where the family needs to go with it. There's not really a specific, there's not even a when. I mean, if you think this is going in this direction, we can have that discussion and put needs in place to solve that issue. Or we can talk about a long-term, short-term, long-term, midterm plan.
Okay. And the insurance companies, you know, more or less should be involved. I mean, a person can contact your company, Cor Freedom, and say, hey, I need you guys to come out and tell me what kind of modifications I need. You guys come up with a plan. When does the insurance companies come into play?
The insurance companies we're seeing cover this right now would be like an auto no fault, a workman's comp. There are some medical insurances that cover this. They would invite us out. And it's a really weird scenario because the customer that we were previously describing becomes an end user, and the customer would be the insurance company. So it's a really unique situation, but as a company, we still understand who the homeowner is and who the payer source is.
Right.
And there's a lot of equations that are brought in. Sometimes there's what they call an occupational therapist. An occupational therapist does what I do for the home, but they attach the body to the home. So what they will do is they will say, okay, Marcia, with this going on, she's able to do this, this, and this. Brad, what do you think your team can do? Well, I can't because there's a pocket door, put a grab bar on this wall, but what we can do is we can go to this option right here, and now your whole care network's involved. And we can bring in an occupational therapist as well in the private residence, but predominantly in the auto no-fault arena, we're looking at an occupational therapist. There's a medical team involved in
Now,
the
what
care
about
package.
homeowners insurance? Does homeowners insurance cover any of the modifications?
I've seen ramps come through homeowners insurance, but it's usually an injury on the property at some point, something involved with the property. It's rare, but it has happened before.
I mean, a lot of people don't use, you know, you have homeowners insurance year after year after year. They collect a lot of money. Okay, they collect a lot of money off of you, and you never use it. So if you slip and fall in your home, you can still file a claim.
I believe you can.
I mean, you know, it depends on what, you know, what the fall was. So, I mean, if somebody walked past my sidewalk and it's an icy day out and they fall in front of my home, they can sue me.
Right.
You know, and it's not so much the word sue. They can file a claim.
Correct.
Okay? So people always use the word sue, and everybody gets mad. Hey, sue me, sue me.
Right.
Well, what you think you got insurance for? You know, if something happens,
Well,
you know,
insurance is risk management.
I look at a lot of times people fall in front of stores. People fall in stores, and the clerks run over and help them get up, and that person is really injured, and they don't say anything. No, I'm okay. And then they go home, and the hip is hurting. Then they go and find out and get an X-ray, and they find out they got a
Fracture.
But you left the store. Now me, ladies and gentlemen, I would not leave the facility. If I'm hurt, I want someone to take a medical report. I mean, I'm going to the hospital or whatever, but I need someone to document this because there was ice on the floor. There was water on the floor, and I didn't see it, and I fell. So don't just help me up and brush me off. Somebody needs to write a medical report.
Sure.
And that's where the ball starts. Okay, and a lot of people get scared of that, you know, like, but when you're embarrassed, you just get up. Oh, I'm okay, I'm okay. You go home and you're in pain.
Right.
And all you do is take 2 leaves. So
Because we're young, it's not going to hurt anything. We're good.
Right. But I'm not trying to encourage people to sue anyone, but
Right.
but go to the doctor, go to emergency, get that
checked
on
out, make sure.
get checked out and get that on
Make
file
sure.
because you never know when it comes. I had a broke big toe. I was in the elevator and got stuck in the elevator for an hour. And I had broke because I was flinging around. I was so scared,
Okay.
and I had a broke big toe. And I just so happened documented it in the medical report when they took the incident report. And the toe flared up a month later. It was turning blue, and I didn't know what was wrong. It was broke.
Wow.
Right, but I kept feeling the pain,
Sure.
off and on, but I just thought it was my shoes too tight, ladies. And it wasn't. It was my toe. My toe was, but it's healed now. But yeah, what I'm saying is,
Sure. You don't know.
if it wasn't in the incident report, it wouldn't have never, it wouldn't have been paid for. It wouldn't have been taken care of.
Correct.
Under the employer's insurance. It would have came out of my out-of-pocket insurance.
Correct.
So I'm just telling people, pay attention to your policies. When you get injured, don't just look at it like I'm just going to brush this off because I was embarrassed that I fell in the floor and my dress went up in the air. It's okay. It's okay. Yes, but you know what? But Brad, you know what? And when I was thinking about the home modifications, more or less, we also know that when children have certain health challenges or conditions, they're growing. So if
Absolutely.
you make modifications in a home for a child that's like 10 or 12 years old, but now he's 20, do a parent call you back and you guys change things?
Absolutely, and we try and look at that, and I've done a lot of PEDS modifications, and some children have a projected growth, some children don't. The thing with mobility issues is once you become critically injured, you got to anticipate a weight gain because you're not getting up, moving around again. That's very serious issue we have to be cognizant of where we're going down the road. It's almost like the senior. Where are they going to go in their graceful aging? Where are we going to go in this child's growth? And that's something we have to look at. We try and break out the crystal ball, if you will, and see what they're going to need in future use. Are we looking at bigger slings if we're using a ceiling lift? Are we looking at a higher weight capacity if it's a stair lift?
Yes.
Do we have to do, there's a device called an incline platform lift, which is like a stair lift, but it takes the user and the mobility device straight up a staircase. So there's options that we have with these designations that we talked about at the beginning of the show, that it's kind of like, okay, this doesn't work, what else do we have? We start looking in our resume and seeing what we have for equipment to help the individual out, and we can handle that projected growth.
Okay, so over time you can change it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I know a lot of parents feel like, oh darn it, just spent $5,000 on this, and
Sure.
he's growing out of it. And that's the fun thing about prosthetics too. So when a child is aging and the bones do still develop or grow and weight issues, the prosthetics change.
Absolutely.
Okay, so things at the
Just
home.
like shoes.
Okay.
Big feet, kids, shoes, they change.
Yeah,
They grow.
yeah. And it does, and people don't understand, just because you have a disability doesn't mean that your body image is not changing, which means that the modification of your prosthetics or your home devices should change too.
The situation has changed.
Okay. Well, Greg, I'm sorry. Brett, I need to tell you that I want you to come back again. You guys need to keep up with us because
We're available.
somebody is always asking questions about what to do.
We're always available.
Okay. Would you tell everybody back at Cor Freedom we said hello?
I sure will.
And thank you for coming again.
Not a problem.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I had to get that out because I enjoy Brad Wert today, as I did last month when he came. And I just wanted to share with you a lot of different accessible home improvement devices that you can consider for your home, or you can consider for, a loved one, period. So do take time out, go to the Just Ask website, justasktalkshow.org, and see what you can find and who you can find if you have a question. I'm your host, Marsha Florence from Just Ask, and what do I always say? If you have a question about a person with a disability or just a general question, don't be afraid to ask, just ask. I'm your host. Thank you.